Where the buffalo roam is at it again, and you just pointed something out. We're all back in black, right? We're all we called each other this morning and thought we would match our outfits. Of course,
we would wear.
We are joined by the wonderful Grace Goodeagle. Give Grace a round of applause. Thank you for taking time to join us and have a conversation with us today. We really appreciate you coming here and chatting with us. Where the buffalo
well, welcome to you, and thank you for doing this.
Yeah, no, this is great. This is going to be fun. Of course, we can't have this conversations without, of course, the help of our wonderful sponsors. I'm talking about Saracen Casino Resort, which now have exclusive tribal member rates as Quapaw tribal member citizens. You are eligible for a special discounted rate of $68 per night, and that's 7 days a week, depending and based upon availability. That's, of course, they have events going on there. So make sure to give them a call at 870-686-9001 to make your reservation. Inform the reservation agent that you are a Quapaw tribal member citizen when booking, and then when you go down there, please present that valid Quapaw tribal ID on check-in, and you will receive that discounted rate. And it's fitting that we're talking about Saracen, because I understand the elders have just booked a trip. The Wisdom Keepers have booked a trip to go check out Saracen.
Yes, we will be going the end of September.
And I know that's something that everybody's excited about going. We know those stinking tariffs pushed everything back, but Saracen's open and is ready to go and is ready to receive you, and you guys are ready to go check it out.
We had made an earlier trip down there and on one of our elder trips, and so that was when it was really under construction.
Yeah.
And they had the little convenience store, so we couldn't get close, but we could see across where they were building.
You could see the progress going on.
You're right.
Yeah.
And so we've all been anxiously awaiting, having it open. And then we got the word, yes, and they wanted us to come. So we said, oh, we'd love to come.
We love that. And when is that scheduled for? That's coming up.
It's the end of September. That'll be the 28th, 29th, and 30th.
And that'll be announced before we know it. It seems like time just flies by.
This year has flown by. Yeah, it's been crazy.
Summer's gone and school started.
And before that, in September, of course, we'll have some digital skills class. We're going to have some more information on that. But our partner down south, Jose, will be joining us. He'll be coming up north for a little bit to teach us some digital skills class. So stay tuned to all of our social media channels. We'll have more information on that, but there's enough of that. Let's get into the conversation with Grace Goodeagle. I can't imagine a scenario where people don't know who you are, your accolades, but if somebody's been living under a rock and just discovered this podcast first thing, you might give them a quick synopsis of your vast history and all your, I don't know if you can give a brief and concise sum up of everything you've done. You've done a lot, but people want to know definitely all the things that you've done, and we're curious to hear them again. We love talking with you. So I don't know if you can give people a little bit of history about yourself.
Well, thank you. First, I always say "Hawaii," and in the Quapaw language, that's hello. My name is Grace Marie Goodeagle. And we usually introduce ourselves by telling who our families are. So I am Goodeagle and Red Eagle. The Goodeagle side, again, we're the O-Gah-Pah, also known as Quapaw. And with the Potawatomi side, that was on my mother's side. Mm-hmm. My grandmother had married a Potawatomi man, so that's where that came in. So I'm Quapaw and Potawatomi. But I wanted to touch a bit, as we are in celebration, the nation, United States nation, America, about the celebrations of Route 66, and also the United States government is celebrating its history of 250 years. Mm-hmm. Well, needless to say, there was a lot of history before then. So. But I did want to touch on, again, Route 66. So much has been said about Route 66. It did cut across our land here. Yeah. This was Indian territories that we had so many tribes moving in. But the Quapaw, we ended up in the northeast corner of what is now Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. And so Route 66 went through. And I did want to kind of remind people, particularly if you experienced all of this, of what Miami, and the locals pronounce it Miami, or others say Miami, Oklahoma. I was born in Miami and grew up here. And this was like during the 40s and the 50s. So my father was a veteran, Army veteran. He had been in World War I and World War II. So during World War II, he was stationed with the Army in France. So my mom and I were at home. Our home was in the Rockdale edition of Miami. My older brother had already gone through NEO, the college, and was working, so he was not at home. But my grandmother, Grace, was living in town. So growing up in Miami, again, the Quapaw, many of us were here. Many of us, of course, are descendants of those folks. But growing up in Miami at that time, it was really something, as I have all my memories of Miami. And two sources there, or at least the main one, would be the Dobson Museum. In Miami, they do have the history there of tribes that are in this particular area, but it photographs, and along with the photographs, Charles Banks Wilson, wonderful artist, just wonderful. He did paintings of Main Street in Miami, and talk about nostalgia. That was really it. Because when I was growing up, it was a matter of going to school, and my brother and I, we did not have to go to high school. That was where many of the Goodeagles went to school, was in high school. And then, but my brother and I went to public school in Miami. And my mother, the Catholic Church had built a church and school out near our tribal headquarters, out towards Spring River. So she went to the Catholic school. And so she went there as far as the 6th grade. Now my grandmother, Grace, on the radical side, she went to Carlisle as a young person. And she was in the class right behind Jim Thorpe.
Oh, wow.
So, but what their experience was, we didn't hear a lot about it. Many years ago, back in the 80s, I was working in Washington, D.C., and I first went to work for the United States Senate. I was working for a senator. But I then left the Hill, and I went with a law firm. But while I was with a law firm, I was appointed by the then President Ronald Reagan to the National Advisor Council on Indian Education, and got to travel across the country on that. But a lot has been said about boarding schools, and I'll have more to comment on that later. But boy, growing up, the memories I have it's like a train. We had a train that came through, passenger train, and it was called the Firefly. And we always listened for that train. And a lot of young people today haven't really heard a train whistle at all, or seen a freight train go through with a caboose. And that was always fun, to wave at the engineers and to wave at the person in the caboose. But we really liked the train. There was a depot in Miami, but we particularly liked when the circus came to town, because the train came in and they unloaded the elephants and all of the animals, and we would go down and watch that. And they usually had a little carnival that went along with it. So we had the little roller coaster and the tilt-a-whirl and all the good things that go there. But Main Street itself, I mean, really, at that time, we had a lot of stores, we had a lot of businesses. There was the hotel, there was the Coleman movie theater. We had three movie theaters in town. One of them was the Glory Bee. The other one was great for matinees on Saturday. It was very cheap to go to the movie.
The Ottawa, I believe the Ottawa Theater was the last theater in town, right?
I'm sorry?
The Ottawa Theater, I think that was the last theater. The third, you mentioned 3?
In the 40s.
Yes.
So there was the theater there was in the middle of town, and it had a lot of the westerns
Yeah.
on Saturday afternoon.
I've talked to somebody that kind of grew up in that kind of same time period. I believe she said it was the Ottawa Theater, and she talked about the westerns, and they had an old man that would come in there, and this was, think like we talk about digital classes now, right? But like this was during that time. This was a whole new world for a lot of people, for the older generation. So he would go in there, this old man, and cuss out the cowboy or the train robbers and things on those westerns because he thought it was real.
So you hear those stories about Roy Rogers and Gene Autry and Tom Mix and all of those, and that was a wonderful way to spend a Saturday afternoon. But the main theater was the Coleman Theater. And you can take tours of it even now. They renovated it. But that was like a palace. George Coleman built that theater. And I know my brother took me to see Fantasia when I was young. But to go into the theater and then to see this wonderful Fantasia with color and all of the action characters, that was really something.
Wow.
Now, north of town, we had a drive-in. We had a drive-in theater there, so that was always fun to go to.
Was that the Route 66 drive-in? Is that where that was?
Where Walmart is now,
Yeah.
north of town, that's where the drive-in theater was.
Wow.
So, and that was part of our community. But we had the usual. We had a hospital. We had different businesses and things, and so that was growing up in Miami. And again, Charles Banks Wilson did a wonderful exhibit of pictures back then, and it brought back so many memories. And again, also there was a book written by Velma Nieberding and about the Quapaw, and she got a lot of stories and pictures of things from the Quapaw. And so that's a book that has been written.
Are those the books that had the coin with them, right? They had like a medallion or something. I remember hearing about those.
So, but growing up with my family, it was a matter of we did a lot of road trips. We loved to travel. And so when the family got a car, then we were able to go on trips and drive around and that kind of thing. Now, thinking back years ago, even before my folks, it was a matter of when our Quapaw people first came to this area, there were very few roads back then. And then there were no bridges across the river, Spring River. And so life was very different. Many people didn't have cars, they walked. They walked a lot.
Did you travel up 66 much?
Very much.
Very much.
So, because maybe it was a two-laner, and everything was on that two-laner. That was a mother road that was coming from up north going, well, if you follow the song about Route 66, you know it starts out and it ends up in California. But traveling on this, but during those days, in addition to all the cars, they had the trucks, they had buses. We had 2 bus lines at that time, the Greyhound and the Trailways. And public transportation was very good at that time because they stopped in the little towns. So people could get on them and go to the next town and that kind of thing. And apparently there was even a trolley service some time ago. But I remember being on the bus one time with my mom. And again, Dad was in World War II, but on the bus were servicemen. And so I remember those memories too, because war was going on.
Yeah.
And then later on, I'll talk more about the mining.
Wow.
How it affected our area here. But there were just so much, it was a very active place. We had an airport. I think our population might have been around 15,000 at that time when everything was going. But that was then back during the 40s. And then I went to school, in high school, and then graduated from high school, and then I moved to Colorado, then I moved to California, and then to Washington, D.C. And so now I'm back home
Now you're back home, right?
in Oklahoma. But living around here too is a matter of being Quapaw. We had family, and families were scattered around the area. And in those days, families really kept in touch with one another. They visited one another, sitting on the porch and talking, drinking coffee and smoking. Well, the older ones did that. The kids, we just ran around and played.
Right.
So those were the growing up days. And but there was one story I remember too, that as I mentioned, many of our people then, they did not have cars, so they walked. And so I met a man, and he was telling me that his family owned a grocery store in Pitcher. And now this was in Pitcher was a town, a real big town. And so we had a number of people that were living in Quapaw town. And so one day he was in his car, and he was driving down the road, and he saw this woman and her children, and they were walking, carrying their grocery bags. And so he stopped and he said, well, would you like a ride? And they said, yes, they would. And so they got into the car, and he drove them to Quapaw town. And he found out they didn't have transportation. So they walked from Quapaw to Pitcher, got their groceries, and walked back home.
Wow.
And so he told them, and he gave them his number. He said, now, when you want to go to the grocery store, you call me. He said, I'll come give you a ride. And his name was Max Martin. So the Martins had a grocery store there. So people helped each other around here. And if someone was walking on the road, they would pick them up and give them a ride. And when the family found out, we always thanked them for giving some family member a ride.
It was a different time for sure. You don't see that kind of like community ties like you did back then.
Right, and powwow time, when we would come, that was a big thing. It still is, powwow time, because when we got together, people camped. They came in and they camped for days. And so like I mentioned this story about the woman and her children walking from Pitcher. Well, they lived in Quapaw town. That was Maud and her kids. And so at powwow time, she was one who moved down to camp. Refrigerator, everything, and camp for days. And many families did that. And we welcomed family members to come, and other people to come too, because it was reciprocal. Whenever we would have a powwow, people would go into the towns and dance and invite them to come to the powwow. And with the other tribes in the area, we always invited them to come dance with us, be with us. And they did. And so they would invite us to their place. And we did. So it went back and forth. Now there's a little bit of a problem with scheduling things. Right. There are just so many things going on. But we have family, Goodeagle family, in Pawnee area, and they always had their homecoming. And so we would go down there when we could. Sometimes there was a conflict in our schedule. But living around here, growing up, it was a matter of, we knew about swimming at 5 Mile, which was quite the popular place. I remember when I was growing up, my Uncle Levi, on my birthday, put a feather bed in the bed of his pickup truck. All us kids loaded into the pickup, and we took off for 5 Mile and did that. And it was with my uncle, too, that I saw Spook Light. They lived out by the river. They were up high, he and Aunt Alice. And so we went out there one night. We were in his pickup, parked there at night. And there were 3 of us, and we were sitting in the pickup. And it was dark. And I could see the little light over there in the trees. And so then it came closer. It came right up to the pickup truck. But that was one of my experiences with Spook Light. So there is such a thing around here.
Were you scared, or was it?
I wasn't scared.
Wasn't scared?
If any of you have seen, it used to be in the movie, they had that little bouncing ball.
Yeah.
So if you sang along, the words were there on the screen, and the little ball would bounce on the words that you were to sing. Well, that's what this spook light did. It bounced around. It was white, and it came right up to the pickup. It wasn't threatening in any way.
Visiting.
Okay? So, in addition to spook light, I always liked to watch lightning bugs. So we had all those little critters around too, and we still do have those kind of critters. But that was what it was like growing up as a kid, a Quapaw. Because again, our ancestors had decided they wanted to live in this part of Indian Territory close to the river, Spring River, and so they did. So that's just some of my memories, but I hope it reminds other people, because it's kind of sad when, again, I think of the young people, they don't know what those experiences are like.
And we're grateful to have you on and share some of these stories. You know, you're talking about the anniversary of 66. I think a lot of people don't realize that Quapaw actually stakes claim to the East met the West paving. Like, there's been a lot of places, Miami claims it, Tulsa claims it, but Quapaw, Oklahoma, is the place where the actual East and West met in the paving. I think there was a ceremony.
Quapaw, yeah. Because Quapaw town was the first one you entered into when you came into this area.
But it's such a rich history.
There is, and we're hoping with using things like podcasts, people will tell about those, because we don't want people to forget those times. And who better to tell the stories than us?
You were there. I mean, I love hearing about it.
Well, Grace is really the inspiration between the first documentary that we did, Voice of the O-Gah-Pah. Like that was really. I remember you came to that BC meeting and you had asked us for those 5x7 cards, and you wanted people to fill them out and talk about something that had been passed down within your family. And I thought that would just be phenomenal for us to be able to capture some of these stories coming from the people that actually experienced them.
Right, because some of my background is media, and I realized the importance of telling our stories. Now, much has been written about the Quapaw. We're mentioned in several books and things, and this kind of thing, but with that, it was a matter of, again, realizing the importance of having our stories told. So that's when I came up with that card, little postcard, and I just asked people, to write things down about what they knew about the Quapaw ways. And then also something about their family. And then I gave one to you, and you checked with your father about it, I think. Yeah, about talking about the Quapaw, who they were, and that kind of thing. But and then from that came the recordings. You started recording some of the people telling their stories and things. And then there was that trip to a film fest in Little Rock.
Yeah.
There was a film, Voices of the Quapaw. Now that was a real surprise to me. I had no idea you had come up with that. But Voices of the Quapaw, and more tribes are doing that. More tribes are doing that, of where they're getting their elders' stories. Because every year, many of them pass on. And with them, like any family, when you lose some of your older ones, all those stories and things go with them.
Yeah.
And if they don't tell them, who will? And there's a poem that I want to share later on. But that, again, was life on Route 66. One of my early, just to kind of share something of my life, when I was little, I mentioned we like to go on trips. We go on road trips and that kind of thing. Well, when I was little, I had a tricycle. And our home was not far from the country club house. And we had been to visit my Aunt Mary and Uncle Levi, Uncle Don. And so I knew where they lived on the river. So I started out with my tricycle. I was going to go visit them. So I took out from our home. I got on Route 66. I got as far as the GAR cemetery and somebody reported to me. So here came the sheriff. The sheriff and I got to know each other very well. I think his name was Cliff. So anyway, he took me and tricycle back home. So that was my early trips on
APB
on
for
Route,
somebody on the
on
tricycle.
Route 66. So there's so many stories, and I hope really that people would do more about sharing them. I also wanted to touch a bit on the United States government.
Yeah, another anniversary, right? You see it everywhere. It's at 250s plastered everywhere. You go to stores, you see it on TV. It's everywhere. So I'm curious to get your
Well,
insight on that.
they talk about 250 years, and that's true as far as the United States government, as far as they're coming up with the Constitution. But there's a whole lot of history before then, because our people, we are indigenous people. We have been here for thousands of years. There's evidence with the Quapaw, they built mounds.
Yeah.
There are still mounds around. One of them being up in Indiana, southern part of Indiana. And on our elder trips, we have been able to go up there and see those mounds. But other mounds have appeared on Tennessee, in Tennessee, east of the river. And certainly there is the large mound down there, Arkansas Post. Now there's a national park there. So we don't build mounds anymore, although I'm hoping as they're redoing the area where the Catholic school used to be, maybe we can build a mound there. Because other tribes that I have visited on their grounds, they have constructed what their dwellings were like back then. And that's why I was thinking, I think it would be good if we built another mound out there where the Catholic Church was. So with our history, again, there's a lot of evidence that, yes, we have been here for a very long time, not only us, but so many others, because the archaeologists are still discovering things. And the anthropologists have been doing their work and that kind of thing. But it's really something when there are the records, certainly, the military records, the United States government, and then also church records. As I mentioned, the Catholics, when the Quapaw came to this area, the Catholic Church came right after them, and they built a church and a school on close to the Quapaw land, part of it there. And so they were there, so they had their church, and they had their school. And many of our people, well, not many, but some now are Catholic because of that. And then, as I mentioned, my mother went to the school there until about the 6th grade. So there are pictures yet. It's completely gone now. I mean, they're down to the foundation, but they are talking about doing that again. And so with that, it's a matter of when the United States government talks about their history of being here 250 years. Well, previous to that, certainly, indigenous peoples, we never realized how things would change over the last couple of hundred years. And so we have our sense of humor too, but there was a joke going around that back east on the coast there were two men standing up on the hillside there, and they're looking out over the ocean. And they see some ships out there, and the ships are starting to come to the land. And so a small boat came out, a little boat, and it was coming towards the coast there. So one man looked to the other, and he said, "Do you think they're going to want to stay overnight?" They came, and they came. And they came, and we knew about the French.
Yeah.
The French came, and there was a lot of trading going on with fur and different things like that. Then the British came, and it was the same thing. They were traders and that kind of thing. Then other people came, and of course we know about the Italian who came, at the request of the Spanish queen,
Yeah.
and this kind of thing. But we have been here for thousands of years, and now our stories are finally being told.
Yeah.
Because most of the general public don't know that much about Native people. So the history of this part of the world, again, the celebration is going on with the United States government as far as they're celebrating their Constitution. 250 years, about what we were saying, there's a lot of history before then.
Mm-hmm.
And then with people coming and coming and coming, it has changed quite a bit. But needless to say, I was also mentioning that our relationship, indigenous people, with the United States government has not been good.
Yeah.
Because since the beginning, they were wanting land for their people. And so there was the Indian Removal Act that was passed, moving many, many indigenous peoples west of the Mississippi River. So many tribes were moved, including the Quapaw. We did enter into treaties, and many tribes did enter into treaties with the United States government. Unfortunately, some of those were never honored.
Mm.
And so that's where we are with that. But nevertheless, we are still dealing with the United States government. But now with sovereignty,
Mm-hmm.
we are beginning to let our stories be known and to try to work with it on a government-to-government relationship, which is what 2 generations ago they thought they had, the government-to-government relation. And that didn't always prove to be the case. I know my grandfather, Francis, he worked closely with our last hereditary chief, tall chief, and with my grandfather, he was a negotiator. He made trips to Washington on behalf of the tribe. And so I guess that's part of where I'm coming from, following my grandfather.
I was gonna say it runs in the family. You went to Washington in the '80s, and what do you think had changed from when he went to when you went? Do you think things had gotten much better, or
Just in recent years, it's gotten worse. It really has gotten worse because there are so many people now who are in government making decisions do not know the people. They don't know the people.
Yeah.
And we found that even when I was working there with people working in Washington, they always say it's all those people that are just within the Beltway. That's their world. And we keep saying, you've got to get out to the States. You've got to find out what your people are thinking, what they want, what they need, type of thing. But that hasn't been always successful. And so now with campaigns, it's a matter of people vote. There have just been so many changes in these recent years that it's made it more difficult. Nevertheless, we are stronger in the sense that what our people have gone through, I just can't imagine. I mean, when they left Arkansas Territory, we lost a lot of our people. We had our own Trail of Tears, just like the Cherokee and many others.
Well, I hope that you will join us for many more stories, and we're hoping that people will see the fun you're having and want to come and have some fun with us and share some of these stories and get it on film. Because like you said, it's so important that we capture the stories from everybody. That way it's not lost. There's so much knowledge, so much history.
We're finding, though, that we're getting a lot more help from people. There's a lot of interest in our stories, and certainly we have been in the news because of Tar Creek, but also we've been in the news because of mining and the Superfund. I mean, there was so much mining going on. You hear about Pitcher, but it's amazing to me, and I'm surprised at times that telling our story about the Quapaw, and so many are interested in it. There was a play that was written by a Cherokee woman, Mary Nagel, and it's called Miss, M-S, Lead, L-E-A-D. And she grew up in Pitcher during the mining. And then she went back east, and she was ill, but didn't know the cause. Why was she sick? To come back to Pitcher, the idea was maybe exposure here to the mining. Contamination made her ill. So the play is called Misled. And some of us got to go to the opening in New York City. It was off Broadway. The other thing is, most recently, there has been a musical. The musical is called The Pitcher Project.
Okay.
And it talks about, again, what happened to the Quapaw and when the companies were coming in and the government, state government, and with dealings with the tribe, wanting to do the mining activities, but yet the tribe stood its ground, and we sued the U.S. government because of mismanagement, and we won.
Wow.
That was the Goodeagle suit some years ago. And so, but I mentioned poetry in the sense of much has been said about us, and there is a book, and this is by Marianne Hurt, and she wrote a poem, and it touched me so, and then another story to go along with it. But what was happening to our people once they came to this area here, it hasn't always been good. So, if I may, I'll read this poem.
Yes.
The poem is called Incompetent, Restricted Quapaw Indian, about 50 years old. Now you see me, now you don't. There I am, lined up with the old Quapaw men. Still got my hair those days, all smoky black braids. Look careful again. See my fist, still holding that old lump of lead. I carried it back then, knew it made me rich. But now they call me crazy, incompetent. Give me a guardian. Send me to Hiawatha, insane asylum for Indians, way up in South Dakota. Lose my money, lose myself. Do-gooders write a book. Oklahoma's poor rich Indians. An orgy of graft and exploitation. Get folks all stirred. Close down Hiawatha. Town fathers buy up the place, build themselves a golf course right over my crazy dead Indian brothers and sisters. Back to the agency. Mute now, lips sewn tight. Now you hear me, now you don't. I cried, and I said, I'm going to be his voice and the voice of others. And there is a story I heard recently about a woman who went to a boarding school. And again, I was on the National Advisory Council on Education at one point. But the story of a woman who went to boarding school. My cousin went to boarding school up in Haskell. And at that time, the school kept saying all of the children had to drink milk. But whenever she drank milk, it made her sick. They did not the school did not realize Indian people cannot drink regular milk. It has to be lactose free, or it makes us sick. And that's what was happening to her. So they were making her drink milk, and she got sick. She came back home to Oklahoma. Family took her back. And so she came again. But when she came again after the milk made her sick, the family told her she didn't have to go back. But boarding schools, we hear again a lot of stories. There were a lot of boarding schools. But a recent story I was starting to tell you about was the fact that someone was saying that she knows a woman. She went to boarding school. She likewise would run away. But what somebody at the school did, they sewed her eyelids shut. so she couldn't see. She couldn't run away again. Those sutures were still there long enough that she lost most of her eyesight. She's a grown woman now, an adult, and that happened to her.
Wow.
So stories like that, again, the stories have to be told. We're living in modern times now,
Yeah.
and so I'll leave you with this thought. An astronaut was out Arizona, New Mexico, and astronaut was out there training, and so he was going to go to the moon. So he had some free time, so he was out and around the countryside there, and the Navajo lived there, Dene. And so he came across this old man. And so he was trying to visit with him, and the old man had an interpreter because he didn't speak English, but the interpreter was there. So the astronaut came and talked to them, and he was telling the old man, he said, what he was doing. He said, I'm going to take a trip to the moon. And he said, is there anything you'd like me to say when I'm up there on the moon? And so the interpreter asked the man, and so the man told him what to say. And so the interpreter then told the astronaut what to say when he got up on the moon. And so that was done. And when the astronaut came back, he went back to see the old man to tell him that, yes, he had taken his message up to the moon. And so when the astronaut told the interpreter and told the old man, they started laughing. And the astronaut couldn't imagine, why were they laughing? And the interpreter said, what the old man has said, beware, they want your land. Another touch of humor there.
I love it. I love the stories, and I love the humor that you inject with these great stories. And I can't help but think how many more of these stories that you have from these people from all generations that haven't been told. I imagine you have quite a few more.
I do, but I do want to encourage people to do this.
Yeah.
Because we all have stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But with those stories, we touch other people's lives. And that's important for us now as elders.
Yeah.
We've got to reach our young people. They are so distracted nowadays, more so than when the opportunities really weren't there for us when we were growing up. And look what they can do now, the young people.
Yeah.
But you know, with elders, it's a matter of we have a lot of knowledge, but with a lot of knowledge can come wisdom.
Yeah.
And this is what we need to pass on.
Mm-hmm.
And we're attempting to do that. And thanks to people like you, we can do that.
Well, thanks to people like you coming and sharing. Hopefully you'll come back on and share some more stories with us, and hopefully people will see this and see what kind of fun we're having and come share their own stories.
Yeah, Grace, thank you for coming on Where the Buffalo Roam. We're excited to get this out and share your story with people.